Good. All right, so good role playing there. So now you have page 1 to your presentation, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so now you say you ended with, so let me let me ask you those questions. Fair enough? And they say sure. So please note that the first 7 questions that we're going to give you, we already gave you with the bona fide buyer appointment from lesson 3. Do you remember that? That's where we said when somebody calls you on the call form, and we talked about getting the appointment book to get a pre-approval stuff, and then I actually said that just a few minutes ago as well. We want to make sure we get them pre-approved for a mortgage. So if they're pre-approved for a mortgage with the letter, you don't have to ask these 7 questions. You don't have to ask any of them. Isn't that great? So if I was in your shoes, I'd be saying, I'm always going to get them pre-approved before I meet them, or maybe you can commit to always getting them pre-approved before you show any properties. Let me ask you this, would that be a better business plan to make sure they're pre-approved before you even, even those guys that go and meet them at properties, which you don't ever do, but even if somebody did, wouldn't it make sense to see if they're pre-approved before you even met them there?
Yes.
I'm just taking it another step further for you, getting them pre-approved, then you're meeting with them, then you're going over their plans, then you're going over agency, then you're getting all the paperwork out of the way, then you're going to set up showings, and you're going to show, and here's another tip, never, never, ever just show one property at a time. Everybody heard that, right?
Yes.
You always show 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And probably never more than 5, because they get confused. Okay? Never show. And now I'm going to tell you what to do if they want to see more. Now again, who wants to do a lot of deals, right? Or who would rather work lots of hours and maybe write 5 a year? Because all the other ways I'm saying not to do is how you do 5 deals a year working 80 hours a week. That's the thing. So, you don't have to write these down because you already have them in your book for those of you who don't feel like writing anymore. Because I just told you, we gave them to you when?
Lesson 3.
Lesson 3. But if you're OCD like me, I guess, and you can't leave any blanks in your book, then have at her.
Yeah.
All right? Okay. So, because I'm pushing the button in a second here anyways. So, the first 7 questions. Now, what do you do if you're in the office here and somebody just walks in off the street and says, I want to buy a house? Do you say, well, go home, I'll phone you, and we'll get you pre-approved? Or do you say, come on in?
Come on in.
Come on in. Let's sit down. And you'll say, well, we'll chit-chat a bit, and you'll say, let me tell you how I can help you here. I've got 8 steps that help you to get into your home, or help you as a buyer. Number 1 is they're going to have some questions to ask you to find out what you want to accomplish. Number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So let me get started with those questions, and you'll turn the page, and you'll say, so, first thing I want to talk about is your mortgage pre-approval. So you can do one of 2 things. You can either ask these questions, or you can say, let's go up and talk to the mortgage broker. Or you can call the mortgage broker. What I used to do is I avoided these questions. Okay, so either get them pre-approved before I meet them, or I'd say, let's phone the mortgage broker. I put the mortgage broker on speaker, and I'd say, I'm going to let you 2 talk and get the pre-approval process started. I'll be right back, and they would just talk in the client room, and I'd go get a coffee or something. Right? Unless you want to sit there, that's fine too, right? But nothing should be done until they're pre-approved. All of us agree on that?
Yes.
Okay, and as a side note, you don't have to ask them all these questions, but you need all the answers. So if you got a pre-approval letter, do you have the answer?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so imagine this is a pre-approval letter here. That's what we'll do. We'll say, let's say they show up. Now, we're going to have some assumptions here. And we're going to treat this as if it's a listing of ours, and the buyer might be a customer or something, and then we'll also look at it as if it's our listing, but it's not our buyer, and we'll look at different scenarios. Fair enough? Okay, so let me give you the rest of the questions first. I should still continue to teach you, then show you how it works, and then maybe get your role play if we have time. Fair enough?
Yes.
Yes.
So the next question is, and these next 3 questions, I think 4, help you to upsell. So make a note of that beside these questions. These questions help you to upsell. Okay? Now these questions you need, that's for sure. In fact, you need the other questions in your book as well. But I just said you don't have to write them in this one because you already wrote them down. But maybe I shouldn't have said that. Because next week, when you bring your presentation, you need to have those first 7 questions in there. Everyone's clear on that?
Yes.
You need, your first page is 8-step sales process. Your second page is the first 7 questions. So let me just make sure you make a note of that, okay? So wherever you wrote down the pages you're starting, go there right now. So page 1 of your buyer presentation, page 1 is the 8 steps. And as soon as you wrote that down, put up your hand. Okay, now make sure you put it on a blank piece to the left because we're going to be putting the 15 pages. Okay? So page 1 is your 8 steps. Page 2 is questions 1 to 7. Page 2 is questions 1 to 7. Page 3 is questions 8 to 14. Okay, and then, you know, I can tell you right now, you can write this down. And page 4 are your buyer services. Page 5 will be something to remind you to explain the forms. Page 6 will be showings. Something to just remind you, you may take on one page, put a few steps. So step, okay, so step 1 was, page 1 was the 8 steps. Step 1 was page 2, which is a series of questions. So you got the 7 questions. Then you got the next page, which is the remaining questions. Let me give you the remaining questions. Fair enough? So those first ones were to upsell, and the rest of the questions are right there. So make sure you make a note of those. So let me show you how to upsell. We'll just take a few questions back, maybe. As soon as you got these written down, put up your hand for me, and I want to show you how to upsell. Anybody have them written down yet? Camera's on? Yeah, okay. So, let me just teach it anyways. I just know that while you're writing, sometimes it's hard to get it all, if you know what I mean. But to upsell is like this. So if they came in and they are pre-approved, I'd show them the first 7 questions and I'd say, listen, I've got your pre-approval letter right here, so we don't have to do the first 7 questions, so let's start at question 8. Fair enough?
Yeah.
They go, sure. So, how much are you planning on spending on your new home? Or, sometimes you don't have to say the same exact words. You already know what they're qualified for, yes?
Yeah.
So the first question, number 8, is how much are we looking at? You say, according to the pre-approval letter, we're looking at $500,000. So you verify. Remember I said we need the answers, right? So you say 500,000, and then you verify. Is that okay? Does that sound good? Mm-hmm. And what do you think they'll usually say if they're pre-approved for 500? Some of them will say, we'll go right up to 500, and some might say, I don't want to go past what? 450, let's say, right? Okay. And then you turn and look at them and say the next question. What is it?
Does that include closing costs?
I'll say it, because I can hear some of you saying, but I can't hear you very good. So, does that include closing costs?
Ching.
Thank you. Hard to remember that one, eh? So, sometimes you guys say it like crazy, really loud, a whole bunch of you, and then all of a sudden just nothing. Yeah, I know. Well, women, you said you can do 2 things at once, so there's no excuse. God said, you know, touche. I'm just kidding. So, you know, does that include closing costs? And you kind of have a little bit of a concerned look, or tilt your head. Does that include closing costs? And they go, what is that? So let's figure it out right now. To the blank page to the left,
Yeah.
let's write down what closing costs would be.
Cha-ching.
Thank you. And there was another cha-ching before that.
Ching.
Okay, so these costs that they have to pay, other than for the cost of the house, give me one thing they got to pay for.
Lawyer.
Yeah, legal fees. So write that down. What's another thing they have to pay as buyers?
Property
Property
inspection. if they
Property
choose.
inspection.
If they
What else?
Disbursements?
Disbursements.
Like
Yeah, well, that's lawyer
transfer.
fees. That's lawyer fees. Lawyer fees are, it's the whole thing, is what I meant.
Okay.
Okay. And that's usually a fee plus disbursements, legal fees. If you're in a different province in some different states, they have to pay a title transfer fee of 1% of the purchase price, and
Yeah.
even up to 2%.
Yes.
So in BC, for example, and I think in California, if they're buying a $500,000 property, they have to come up with about $10,000 to buy extra to buy a house for transfer fees. It's coming here too, by the way. So when you talk to buyers in the future, 10 years from now it might not happen for a few years, but it'll happen someday. You'll be saying, how much do you have down? And they have 5%, plus they'll need another 10 grand or 20 or whatever it is to buy a house. And that money is like, bye-bye. That doesn't go towards. So it's gonna be a little harder for people in the future, but people in other provinces do it all the time. Manitoba does it, so does BC, and I'm not sure about Ontario. And other states, I'm not sure either. I know Arizona doesn't. They teach there a lot. Same as California, I think it does.
Ontario does.
So Ontario does, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see here. So we've got lawyer fees, or legal fees, includes disbursements. We have property inspection, buyers pay so they can see if they want to buy the place.
Yeah.
They, what else did we have? Was there something else?
No, but
What's something else?
if they choose, like B lender, sometimes they have like extra
lending fee.
like a
Lending fees,
and
if
then
possible,
they'll-
yeah. And there's one other one that's really big that
Tax
applies to everybody.
Moving costs.
Down
No,
payment?
moving costs, make a note of that, okay? How much does it cost somebody to move all their furniture and everything out of a $400,000 house over to the $500,000 house? How much does it cost them?
Like 1,000.
So they're gonna say, if you say what are closing costs, they're gonna say, what's that? You're gonna say legal fees, home inspection, and moving costs. They're gonna say, how much is that? And what are you gonna say?
1%.
You're gonna give a,
Now, maybe I already mentioned to you how we do that, so yeah, we just say a percentage. Or what you were gonna say, you know, what would the legal fees be? Well, let's see, I got a brochure here, I think. And you make sure that you've got a brochure from your lawyer that you're gonna refer,
yeah,
and in there, he'll have a schedule inside.
Yeah.
It'll say, you know, for a seller, you know, $1,000 plus disbursements, and then they say, what's disbursements? You'll say that's other fees, so you might wanna call him. And don't you say any prices, because
Yeah.
if you say a price and it's 5 cents more than you said, they're gonna blame you. Don't go there. How much it costs for moving? Let's say, I don't know, you know what we've thought about in the industry is if we allow at least 1% of the purchase price or list price for closing costs.
Jim.
Thank you. I was waiting. Can't get it from this team.
I
Forgot it. Oh, did you say it? You said it too quiet.
I forgot.
No, you didn't, Terry. I was watching. Your hand was in front of your mouth when you said that. Yeah. So, you say about 1%, which is how much in this case?
400,000.
$5,000.
No, I thought you were asking.
$5,000, okay? 5,000. Now, to upsell, watch carefully. So, you say, okay, so if you needed a little more, would you be able to get it then? So what did we say again? You know, how much are you going to spend? How much are you going to use of this pre-approval? They say, and then you say, does that include closing costs? Change. And they say, what's that? And you say, well, there's legal fees and moving costs and that. So, you know, that's going to be money you're going to need to spend. Well, how much is that? Well, you should put aside at least 1%. Maybe even 1.5. Oh, okay. Oh, I don't know. They say, well, so if you need it, notice the question?
Yeah.
Go ahead and ask the person beside you that question.
What do you
Number 10. Number 10 is what I'm asking you to ask.
If you needed more, would that be?
Okay? Okay, now look back up here. So here's the thing. I'm trying to give you the flow here. Right? So we don't have to ask you the first 7 questions. We got a pre-approval letter here. You're good. It's $500,000. So how much did you want to spend on a new home? Is the 500 about right? And they say yes or no, right? So then whatever they say, you say, okay, does that include closing costs, ching? And they'll say, I don't know, what's that? And you'll say legal fees, moving costs, and an inspection, right? Then the next thing you do is they say, well, yeah, I guess. You say, so if you needed more, would that even be possible? Yeah, I guess I could get a little bit more. Then you say, okay, well, that being said, would you consider a what?
A
A higher price range. Why do you think we should consider that? Well, I'm just saying, I'm not saying you're gonna have to, I'm just saying we might go out and look at properties in the range you're saying, and you may say, you know, maybe we need something a little better, we may have to pop up to the next price range. So I just wanna know in advance if we need to consider it. So you see the upselling, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Then you ask them the next question. Tell me what type of home you're looking for then, or you confirm it. So on the call form here, I can see that you had filled out a form that I received for a property in Happy Hills, in a bungalow, around $500,000. Anything else you can tell me about the property? right? So they start telling you what they're looking for, the garage, the basement, the type, the style, the neighborhood and all that stuff, and you confirm all that. Then you just ask them, are there any features you can live without? And why would you ask that, you say? Well, sometimes they give you a list of what they want in a house, and it turns out you end up looking for a house that doesn't exist. Has too much, especially in their price range. You know, they may say, we want a newer bungalow with 9-foot ceilings, finished basement, double detached garage, or attached garage in this case. Newer, meaning in the last 10, 15 years maybe, not something as old. And you know, they want 2,500 square feet, and we don't want to pay more than $450. And then you're saying, okay, so you upsell them first, and then you ask them if there's anything to live without, or if there's anything we could adjust here, just to see if there's a little more of a selection for us. So it could be that it's not as new, or there's no finished basement, would that be possible? I had one where I just said, you know, we're looking in a neighborhood where to get a house and a nice garage in your price range, it's not going to work. We'd have to go up about 50 grand. So in your price range, what if we found a house that was good for you but had no garage? And I said, would you at least want to see it? Not buy it, I didn't say. I said, see it. And they always say, yeah, I don't mind looking at it. Houses sell houses. Realtors just seem to mess up things. So you just remember, if you can get them over to see a house, they may go through the house and say, you know what? We decided that this is the one for us. We were going to save up and build a garage. And they like the house that much. So don't work against yourself, okay, gang? So let me ask you, if we find the right home today or tomorrow or on Saturday, you know, you got to change the words according to what's going on. Is that right, gang?
Yes.
You know, if you're going on Saturday and today's Wednesday, and you look at them and say, if we can find you the right home today, you're ready to buy it, they'll be like, what? You know, so you say on Saturday, right? Would you be ready to buy it? And the thing is if they say yes, then you want to move towards the sales process, or the buyer services. But if they say no, you got to find out why. So look at question 14 again. If we can find you the right home on Saturday, would you be ready to buy it? If they say no, give me one of the reasons why they might say we're not buying, even if it's the right place. Now they're already pre-approved for a mortgage. So what would be one of the reasons?
The price range?
No, that's works at a good price range and everything. Okay, do you have any idea?
They're not serious?
Well, they are serious.
Oh, yeah.
They're buying for sure.
They want to show their uncle.
They want to show their dad, yeah, mom and dad, okay? Okay, so if you have somebody that says, we want to go out and look at properties, when we pick the one we like, we want to set up another showing for dad. Now, if you haven't been in real estate for very long, you may not realize that this is a big problem
Yes.
if you do it that way. Why do you think it might be a big problem for you to show properties, then dad's got to get involved? Is it because the property might be gone by the time they put an offer in?
Yes.
No, well, that could be, but that's not what I'm getting at. It's because if dad and mom only see the one, they never seen the other ones you showed, their go-to instinct is to protect their children or protect their relatives or whatever you want to call it. That's their go-to. So they'll say, okay, how much for this one? This one's 500. What?
Yeah.
Holy cow, you know, 30 years ago you could have bought one of these here for 160,
Oh my.
you know? And then there, listen up, it's very important. Ready?
Yes.
Okay, so listen up. Okay, so what their job is to say you need to look at more properties, but they already did, but the father didn't. So what would be the solution to this? If they say we want to wait or we want to look and then get dad to see, what would be our solution?
Bring
Bring
that.
dad
Well,
along.
let's bring dad now, and what we say is important for them to understand is let dad see the other stuff so he knows you're picking the best one.
Right.
Does that make sense? Now, if they say yes, you just move to the buyer services. All right? So let's take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back, and if you come back as quick as